things to Gabriel first. So Gabriel San Emeterio is someone who I met many years ago through our, I think through our mutual friend, HIV journalist, Tim, whose last name I'm forgetting because I have long COVID, even though, oh, Tim Murphy. And um, I was I'm living with chronic fatigue syndrome, as is Gabriel. So we've been able to support information and support one another and work together a lot, particularly over the past decade. And I want to thank Gabriel for being a relentless voice in the HIV community for disability justice and language justice. And turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, JD. Um, oh, am I glitchy? Is it okay? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Um, just remind me how long we have just for this.
15 minutes.
Oh, about 15. Oh, that's plenty. Oh, okay. I hope I won't bore people with too much of that. But yes, thank you. JD is a friend and mentor, and I've learned also so much, and he's helped me also so much in this difficult journey that is living with HIV and complex chronic conditions that are often mystified, and the reality is that they're under-researched. Like there's just not enough resources dedicated to the research, the investigation, and the development of treatments because they tend to be feminized. For instance, myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome affects a large number of femmes, and so therefore, as does fibromyalgia, for instance, and therefore um, science doesn't deem them worthy, right? It's also, we're dealing with symptoms that tend to be quite stigmatized under capitalism, right? Because they affect our ability to produce and they can't be quote unquote objectively measured. So you have to believe the person when the person says, I'm experiencing fatigue that I can't move through, right? It's like, how do you measure someone's fatigue or how do you measure someone's pain? There's not a test. There's not a little machine that they can plug you to and see if you're actually experiencing pain or if you're just saying um, that you are in pain. So we have those issues in this society that we tend to not believe people, particularly people who live at the intersection of marginalized identities. And then forget it if you have another element to your life, such as like substance use, which is quite common and should not be a reason to discriminate, but medical providers tend to be quite judgmental and dismissive of any type of substance use that they don't prescribe. They're quite happy to prescribe us things, but if we use anything not prescribed, they tend to turn their nose up at it. So my story is that this year, I have been living with HIV for 18 years. And soon after I seroconverted, I started struggling with fatigue and chronic pain. By the way, probably a lot of you know from experience, and if not, I can tell you that fatigue and pain are incredibly common among people living with HIV, particularly as we age. Those are among the most common symptoms that people report. And unfortunately, there aren't effective treatments for either many a times because the origin of it cannot be identified, or so they tell us. So with that, I'll say that after I seroconverted and began struggling with these issues, it is likely that I acquired Lyme disease shortly after I seroconverted, but doctors explained my symptoms away in every possible way, which was you just seroconverted, you were incredibly sick, your body's going through a transition. Um, I used to do hair. It's your job. That's why your joints hurt. People would tell me like, well, this is what it feels like after a long day of work. Of course, you're tired. But I just was basically collapsing after work, and it would take me days, like an entire weekend, just to feel functional again, just get back on the wheel. And one of the things that is incredible, and I mean, JD brought it up, we do have to keep questioning the professionalization of HIV services. I mean, I go to an HIV clinic that runs like a really well-oiled machine, um, you know, and HIV services, for better or worse, today, we do have a test. And so doctors are very well trained by and large to say, oh, okay, you're HIV positive. You need this medication. And that transaction goes generally okay. I mean, we're now in times where that is under threat. And, we have great programs like Ryan White and ADAP, which people can get, even people who can't afford medication can get it like that, right? Or hopefully in a short amount of time. Uh, in New York, we're very grateful. We have an ADAP program that works incredibly. You can get your medication the same day. They can turn on ADAP for anybody living with HIV the same day. Um, so living and experiencing this contrast really um, is um, politicizing, because the way in which my HIV was managed was incredible. It just happened so quickly. It happened efficiently, fast. I like nobody questioned whether I had HIV or not. It was like the test was there and it was fine. But anything that was beyond that became sort of a point of tension with all my healthcare providers, and continues to be. My healthcare providers are lovely and they are very nice people. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to living with myalgic encephalomyelitis, fibromyalgia, they just say, well, that's not my expertise, right? And so therefore, they can't help me. So I've had to turn to community and to other people, including JD, who's helped me with their experience, right? Our elders, like the term that JD coined, which is some of us who are ill and elders. And therefore, we have this wisdom that we have accumulated through the struggle. And this is why community is so important, because so many um, medications have been repurposed through working with medical professionals who are open to experimenting and who deal willingly with cases that are, let's say, um, less common, and also community, like people helping each other, letting each other know, and building networks to say what has worked for you, what has helped you in terms of supplements, in terms of medications, and this is how we build community resilience. So um, I have to say that in advocacy, we really need to continue to push to fight ableism, and we need to continue to advocate for educating providers um, through community engagement. Providers need to know and listen a lot more to what we're going through, particularly as the population of people living with HIV is aging. I am part of the statistic, I will be 50 in 2030. 70% of us will be 50 and older in 2030. So that guarantees us a couple of things, right? If we live long enough, we're going to get more chronic conditions and we're going to experience disability at some point, whether it is um, there to stay with us, temporary, or episodic. And so we need our providers to understand that disability is not this one permanent thing as the Social Security would like to define, but it presents itself in different ways. It can come and go. The severity of our symptoms sometimes ebbs and flows. And some days we're able to do things that other days we just simply can't. And then sometimes we have to say no to many things in order to avoid making ourselves sicker. And we'll probably get into this later, but last thing I'll say is that for many of us with complex chronic conditions, on paper, they would say that we tend to get better over time. And while I can say that I'm much better now than I was 15 years ago, for sure, I have also had to radically alter my life. And when doctors were telling me, for instance, that what I needed to do was exercise, raise my heart rate because I was a young person, that was the worst advice they could have possibly given me, right? For the condition I had. It was actually making me worse. So, rest, radical rest, changing one's life radically can make one better, but we need to really make sure that that is understood by providers and by systems of care, because the assistance that we need in order to make those changes and maintain them um, is not there, and it's being shrunken. So with that, I'll pass it to, I believe, Gregory, and I'm blanking out on names, but
You're
yes.
fine. Actually,
Greg and
thank you,
Ruth.
Gabriel. I just want a moment for you and JD to connect after all of that. Thank you so much for sharing. And also, yes, post-exertional malaise is a bitch. Like that is, yes. So thank you for all of that.
Yeah, and also Gabriel, I was wondering, I know we'll have some Q&A later, but can you, before we move on, do some shout outs of how people can get resources to give to educate themselves and their providers about some of these
Oh,
conditions?
yes. Thank you. So we created at Long COVID Justice the HIV Complexities Project. It's in the chat. The link is in the chat. So JD David's um, little brainchild, and it includes info sheets that were created by patients. Then they were reviewed by medical professionals. But the point is precisely to put the wisdom of the community on paper so that it can be accessed by everyone, and it's in really accessible language. There's also a support group that I co-facilitate, and we're starting the 2026 iteration of the support group. Is the third time we do it, the third year, and it starts the last Thursday of May. If you go to the HIV complexities page, you can fill out the interest form. Right now, there's an option for 2 times, and we'll decide based on the responses at what time the support group will be, but it will be held the last Thursday of every month. So, yeah, mutual aid. Thank you. I forget what else you were saying. This time is kind of
That's all.
rough.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
for
The
all
end of
of
the
us,
day,
I think, with
we're out of
chronic
gas.
illness. Yeah, so
Yeah,
thank you all for showing up at this really challenging time of the day.
yeah. And
Thank
okay,
you.
so let's move on to the Fordhams.
All
Welcome.
right.
Good evening, everyone. I am so grateful to be a part of this webinar. Thank you, Heather and Wahida and everyone that's up there and my husband for inviting me to sit in with him. Um, Yeah, there's a lot of challenges going on right now with my health. I was diagnosed HIV positive. Well, they said AIDS back then in 1988. So this makes my 38th year. I was 30 years old when I was diagnosed, and I was told that I would live about 2 more years. I was given 2 condoms and told not to have any more unprotected sex. And that was the beginning of my venture living with HIV. I was in New York City. I was living there. I was doing drugs at the time. My life was definitely out of control. I called home to where I live, Norfolk, Virginia, talked to my mom, and she told me that that's not what God says, that nobody has my timeline and can tell me how long I'm going to live but God. So she's been trying to get me to leave New York and come home to Norfolk, Virginia. So after the diagnosis, I finally made it home. Um, and I got here and I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I had made up my mind before I left New York that that was the end of my drugs. I have one child and he was growing and getting older, and I hadn't spent a lot of time in his life. My mom helped me raise him. And so that was very important for me to get in my son's life. And as I came home and transitioned and got the support from my mom, I gave my life to the Lord. I'm a Christian. I give God honor for everything that happens in my life because He lifted me. I began to got sober first, got clean and sober, and then I began to volunteer at aid service organizations. One of them was where I met my husband. We were friends. We've been friends for over 30 years. Um, and I started working and learning about HIV and AIDS and what I needed to learn. And so I surpassed those 2 years that they told me I would live. And going past those 2 years, I felt like there were other people that had been given that same diagnosis. And, in the 80s and the early 90s, a lot of people was dying from this disease. And so I felt like, well, maybe let me try to see if I can help someone else that may have been given a death sentence to let them know that they don't have to die and they can live. So started
Mhm.
working in HIV community, giving it my very, very best. I did not, I would, I, with God's help, I was pretty healthy. So now, I guess in 2015, I was
Mhm.
working at an AIDS service organization, local, the LBG Life Center. Um, and they are both of our supporters at this time. They really do support my husband and I. We were up there earlier today. And I have been working for over 20 something years with these beautiful people that have supported us. 2015, I had began to get really tired all the time at work, and I would go to work, and it took everything I had to get there, and so I knew something was wrong. My infectious disease doctor, she was testing me for things, but she didn't have a diagnosis for what was going on, and so she referred me to another doctor, and I went to see that doctor. And he diagnosed me with multiple myeloma, with cancer. And back then, in 2015, I was told that most people who are diagnosed with multiple myeloma didn't live past 7 years. So now I'm actually in my 12th year of being diagnosed with the cancer. I've been on chemotherapy treatment for 12 years now. Um, the what they usually give people with multiple myeloma is stem cell transplants. But because of my HIV, they have to bring your immune system down to zero to have a transplant for multiple myeloma. So my oncologist and none of my doctors have felt it safe. My husband and I have had many consultations with them. They don't feel it's safe for me with this long-term diagnosis of HIV to put myself through that. Also, they can't guarantee us that it would even work. So I'm okay with that at this point. Um, excuse me. So the chemo, after being on chemo, I just had chemo Tuesday, and my husband sat beside me, and I was there for 6 hours. So receiving chemo. It's a lot going on with my health right now. I'm so appreciative of you guys for inviting us to this platform. I haven't worked in some years now, probably about 12 years. When I got the diagnosis, my mom got sick and we ended up moving her in here with us and taking care of her as well. So there's been a lot going on. My husband just finished work and he just retired. But he was working all through it and we were doing our best to survive. We've got a couple of people that's been supporting us in friendship. I see a couple of sisters that's up here today. Sometimes I don't call or talk a lot on the phone because I feel like there's so much going on with me and people really don't understand. Most people today have a lot of problems of their own, so they don't want to hear mine. So I have isolated for probably about the last 6, 7 years, especially since my mom's been gone. And that's been really hard. Last year in January, I was not feeling too well. And so my oncologist referred me to another doctor. He's taking some tests and saying that my kidneys wasn't looking well. So they're asking me to go on dialysis, but I have not accepted that. Last few years, I've ended up with a pacemaker. So my heart goes off rhythm and it goes really low. My heart rate is low. And the list goes on and on. I heard Gabriel and David. I heard you guys sharing some of the things that happened with living with this diagnosis. And sometimes it's really hard to explain. Sometimes I don't know myself, I'm beginning now to feel where my bones and things just kind of lock up on me. I don't know if it's from the myeloma, which is a bone cancer, if it's my heart, if it's fatigue is really, really great. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. It was really hard because I was so tired. I didn't know if I could make it there, but with God's help, He gets us through. And so this is a journey I don't guess none of us have lived through before. So we're trying to figure it out. And my husband and I are trying to navigate what we're going through and what we're getting through during this journey. Within the last 5 years, both of us have lost our moms. Both of us moms have gone on to be with the Lord. And one of the things that we do, and I'm real grateful and thankful, is we have a saying that we take care of each other. He takes care of me, I take care of him. I try to do what's difficult for him. He tries to do what's difficult for me. And we have one son. My son is grown. He's an adult. He's not here. He doesn't live here. So I know he loves us and he supports us, but, he's not here. So it gets a little lonely sometimes. But we're making it. We're making it, and I thank God for that. Go ahead, Boo.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name's Gregg Fordham. Here in Norfolk, Virginia. Heather hit me up about doing this webinar, and of course it was the reunion project. I immediately said yes. It's the intersection for me has always been difficult because it for me on my side is kind of a guessing game. Is it HIV? Is it this? Is it that? And then when I talk to doctors who can't identify it, and I got to wait on, I was talking to Heather earlier and I said, you got to wait on the white coats to give you a diagnosis, but you're sick. So I've gone through a lot of stuff that, I don't know, I guess we just fighters, like everybody else up here. About 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, I was in a car accident. I lost both my legs. Lost both my legs. I got plate in this arm, plate in my right arm, pins in my left arm. I had a C2 fracture to my neck, and I got a gap in my head. If you ever look at me from behind. And the crazy thing through that situation for me was my ID doctor would come, and I was like, I don't really care what's going on with all of that. And he would say, your numbers are good. Your numbers are good. And we get caught up in, that's the one thing I think we do too much, is we get caught up in this numbers game. And the realization is you're talking about people. It's not numbers, it's the people. And you got to treat people, and that's my opinion, you got to treat people as a holistic thing. It's not a cookie cutter model that I gave it to Gabriel so I can give it to Ruth, and I can give it to Heather, and I can give it to Wahid. No. Every individual is different, and the medical community doesn't try to treat us all different. So that's part for me where the advocacy comes in, because I don't have a problem with, no, let's stop. I know you're getting, you want me out in 15 minutes, but let's have a conversation. Let me tell you how my life goes, and you can understand what's going on with me a little bit better. Versus, I got white coat syndrome, and you give me a script and you just look at me and say, this will help you. No. So I think that's one of the things that we as a people have to start doing. I think the advocacy that has to happen for us, and especially as you come down south and get out of big cities, yeah, it's a very small community that we deal with, and you got to understand how things work and how to get things changed. That is usually my biggest thing on how to get stuff changed. Because right now, I can speak for my wife for this one. We just went through a situation where the state of Virginia cut most Part B money. When they cut the Part B money, because the state is paying for ADAP, so everybody has medical insurance. Well, when they cut Part B, they basically what happened was they got three different systems and none of them talk to each other. So she got cut off of her medicine. And she got cut off her medicine, and you had to go where her case manager could normally go from pick up a phone or get online and talk to somebody at this place. She no longer had access to talk to them. She had to go through a third party to talk to them, and it had to come back the same way. So she was out of medicine for almost 30 days. Um, Fortunately, that got fixed. But right now we're in the process of looking at how many other people locally that's happening to, because there has to be a way to fix this system. So
Yeah.
that is one of the things we do.
So we spend about 15
Oh,
minutes.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't know. Let us
No,
know if
you
we
have
spend
your
our time.
You
Okay,
have
I
I
go
don't
back
want
to
to
mute.
go over.
I go back to mute. Sorry.
We don't want to go over our time.
Yeah.
No. I think that you're fine. Thank you all so much for sharing that. And I just want to like extend so much love to you all and like let you know that we're like hugs and the strength that you all have and like the love that you all have and the support that you all have for each other is like so moving and it's so powerful to see. And just thank you for all of that. And I want to also take a moment to send some well wishes to Susan Mull, who is supposed to be joining us as our third panelist today. She unfortunately, is having some hardships herself. And I think that that is a reality of existence and a reality of living with chronic illness. Is that some days it's just hard, and some days things need to shift because your capacity shifts from day to day. And so if we can just like send some love out to her, and yeah. Thank you all so much. And I would love to, yeah, big hugs, like big, huge. Next time in Norfolk, like I'm coming for you and we're hugging and we're crying and laughing and everything, because all of it is valid. And I think that's what that is about. Um, and
Yeah, and I'd like to jump in to thank you both so much. It was great to hear you. I don't think I've heard you in the past, and I wrote down some notes of some of you made so many points of what's important to consider. Here's just some of the things that I heard. One, HIV itself can change how medical providers approach other conditions or symptoms. It might mean that you can't take particular treatments or do a particular immune suppressing therapy that could endanger your HIV situation and so on. Sometimes we don't know, we may know we're having fatigue. That's pretty noticeable. We don't know what it's from. So we'll have symptoms, but when we have multiple conditions, we don't know what's causing it. Sometimes it also could be from medication or treatments, or the conditions themselves. Um, Faith is important in so many people's lives. And faith to me means believing what you believe. And when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis a long time ago, and actually it was changed to a different diagnosis of a more rare thing eventually. But I talked to a friend of a friend who had MS, and she said, "It doesn't matter to me what you believe, but believe it all the way. Let yourself have faith." And how important that was. Believe that what you're doing is what you need to be doing, and that's always stayed with me for decades now. Another thing I heard was that, being sick can get in the way of getting care, right? Like it's such a cruel irony that sometimes we're too sick to get medical care today. I had to call for one of my partners this morning that they were too sick to go get an echocardiogram, that they needed to get cleared for a surgery they need for something else. So it becomes very complicated. And that's why at Long COVID Justice, we started the HIV Complexities Project, because it's not that we're good or bad or having additional conditions is good or bad, or some kind of judgment, but it's a complexity. Some people's HIV complexities may be because of poverty, because of intimate partner violence. Some people is because of other conditions. Some people it could be because of what's going on these days with being an immigrant. And it could also be from other chronic conditions or acute conditions that happen. Um, Being ill or having different conditions can be very isolating. And I heard both the isolation, but also the importance of family. And that can be family of origin, family that we come to through marriage or love, having children together, and also families of choice. People who are our families because they act like our families, right? And people who maybe our family who don't act like our family. In my case, I feel it's very important not to have those people in our lives. Just because we may be related by blood, if we're not related by caring behavior, especially if we're sick, that is not helpful. And there's no sort of right to be in my life unless you are kind and helpful to me. Um, Partnership. I love that quote. I do what's difficult for him, and he does what's difficult for me. Such a beautiful example of interdependence. And interdependence is such a big part of disability justice. And I encourage everyone to check out the 10, I'll put in the chat that, or someone else can, the 10 principles of disability justice, which is the social movement that was started by disabled Black and brown queer people, to really talk about what is it to not be ableist. It's not just the absence of bias, it's actually the ways that we live together when we realize all bodies have strengths, all bodies are sacred, right? So I heard a lot of disability justice. There's no cookie cutter model for the care that people need for whatever particular combination of complexities we have. And the importance of understanding the specifics of your own community, how things work and how to get stuff changed, differs according to where you live, or even like what you're trying to change, right? So there's so much wisdom in all that. So thank you to both of you. I look forward to hopefully hearing more from you in the future in my life. So now do we have any more speakers? I think we've had all our speakers, and we do move to our Q&A.
Yes.
Yes. So for the Q&A, you're welcome to put questions in the chat, or also raise your hand. If you're on screen, you can raise, and then can raise a physical hand. You can do that, or you can also go to the React tab at the bottom of your screen, and you can click the rate. You can raise your Zoom hand.
I see Andrew. I see Andrew Beckerman. Seems like they have their physical hand up. Is that true? Why don't you come off mute and ask your question? Can you unmute yourself, Andrew? Tammy says, Kenny says, this is why I love the reunion project. Let me see if we unmute? Um, I'm not able to unmute him. Do you see anybody else, Heather?
Yeah, I see Danielle. I see your
Okay.
hand up if you'd like to come off mute and share.
I just want to thank you guys for having this meeting. I'm someone who has long COVID and was disabled, but I was a bone marrow transplant nurse. So, like, hearing her story about having HIV and multiple myeloma and the complexity of that, I've always been someone caring for other people. I've never been the one who's needed care. And I think just in the HIV community, you guys are kind of the roadmap that we need to follow. And I just wanted to really just say thank you. And I like these terms, like she's a great listen, or he's a great listener, like the interdependence, the 10 principles, like just by talking and sharing, we're all learning so much. So I just want to just know if there's anything that I can do differently newly in this chronically disabled community that would help me be a better advocate. Any books, any tips, anything like that, just put them in there. I would love to read them.
Thanks, Danielle. Thank you for being here. I still recommend the Long COVID Survival Guide, although it came out at this point about 3 years ago. Um, is a great book, and people are welcome to make other suggestions. And then we have someone who wanted to make a comment. Ramona Smith, would you like to come off mic and make a comment? Or any other questions or comments?
Okay, I figured it out. You
Great.
got to forgive me with this technology. First, I
Take your
want to
time.
say I truly, truly enjoyed this. Gregg and Ruth are some of my favorite people from Virginia. I have been living with HIV for 35 years. Praise God. I just turned 76. I love this. I truly thank all of y'all that are on here today. Some great things have been said. We have to bind together more. I have 8 other chronic illnesses besides HIV, but I give God all the glory. I may be a little slower, but I ain't stopping. I'm keeping on going. Thank you all so much, and God bless you. And I may not know all of y'all individually, but I love you anyway, and ain't nothing you could do about it.
Thank you for that mandatory love. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your years. I see, is it Yay has a hand up? You want to
Yes,
come up?
Gabriel's actually my professor. They're amazing. Um, I just I'm new. I'm trying to learn more about HIV, and if anybody's comfortable with sharing, I just wanted to ask, I'm trying to learn more about people's experiences. If you're okay with it, could you share how you found out your diagnosis and how you felt at the time? It could be anybody.
I'll share if y'all
I
don't
can do
mind.
it. Oh,
Go ahead, Gregg.
Go ahead. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ramona. Okay. All right. So
I can share too.
how I found out was because I was trying to get into a serious relationship. And the person that I was trying to get into the serious relationship knew me and knew my history. So I was a person who was very, very, very promiscuous. So they asked me to go get a HIV test. Back then, when I was diagnosed, there was no such thing as an instant test. Right. You went to the health department and it took you 2 weeks to get your results. So I made every excuse known to man why I couldn't go get this test. Who's going to pay me to take off from work? I don't have the time to do all of that. I ended up getting going and getting the test. And when I left, they said, come back in 2 weeks, or if you don't, we will contact you. Got it. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. So I went back, and the guys back then, it was pretty like it should be now. It's pretty cold and blatant. As soon as I sat across the desk from him, he looked at me. He said, "Sir, Mr. Fordham, I'm sorry to tell you, but you do have you are positive for HIV." And my first response was, "How long do I got to live?" That was the first thing that came out my mouth. And what was crazy about it was he made a joke because he tried to say, I could give you a date, but nobody really knows, because I could give you a date and you go out here and get hit by a bus tomorrow. So that would throw that off. Today, that's kind of comical. Back then, it wasn't. So, but what I did learn was nobody could tell you how long you had to live. And at that time in my life, I was a drug addict. So I got high. And when I tell you I was a drug addict, that high, I got high every day that had a Y at the end of it. Now, if you figure out which one doesn't, that's the one I didn't get high. But other than that, I got high every day. So I figured if I was going to die, I was going to go out with a bang. Never got the bang. Got high, do something stupid, get locked up. Hence why today I tell people quickly I'm allergic to silver. But those bracelets that they put on you are silver. So that was my experience on when I found out and what I did. It took me probably about 6 months of realizing nothing was going to happen. Then I finally went to a doctor. And when I went to the doctor, they put me on they put me on medicine, which was AZT. And I got into treatment for drug use. And when I went into treatment, I started realizing everything else I was doing, my self-medication was stuff to kill me. And these drugs they were giving me were supposed to keep me alive. So that was how I tried to flip it in my brain to make it make sense. Since then, I've taken a bunch of no drugs, HIV medications. You name it, I've gone through that list from the AZT to I've done Crixavan, I've done Norvia, I've done you name it, I've done them all pretty much. Susan Mulls has joined us. How you doing, Susan? You muted. Long
Susan,
time
you are
no see.
muted. You're muted,
I haven't
Susan.
seen you for forever. Oh my goodness, these people. I haven't seen some of you for forever. And I am good. A lot has happened. I only just the last couple of weeks I'm not working. I might go back to work, but I moved. My husband's in memory care. Things have, really things change over the years. But you keep going, and I am so sorry. Working, I don't know why over the years. I have never been able to be at a reunion project meeting. Oh my gosh. And there's JD I've known forever. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I am so sorry this happened. And Wahida called me, and to hear that voice, oh, that just got me in the groove here a little bit too, you guys. And Heather texted and emailed me. Good to see you all. I don't want to talk too much right now, but we were going to really do a thing. And
well, Susan, this is your time. Go ahead and we welcome you as a speaker to speak about your experiences today. Yeah, if you're game,
I am game. I look
make some
erect
points.
because I told Heather I was just running, so I'm still doing that crazy stuff. Just did a 5K on Saturday, and
Wow.
yay! I was still can't win in my 70 to 74-year-old age group. There were 22 of us, and I was only seventh, but it's okay. It's all good. Heather, if you don't mind, I will say a couple things. And
oh my goodness, do I mind? I want. Please. This is all you. Please do share your experience, Susan.
Oh my goodness.
Or is yours?
I'm afraid of what picture you showed. Yeah.
It's the beautiful one in the garden.
Yeah. Oh, I love that garden.
Amazing.
Well, I want to say to all of you, and I hope I know almost everyone, Heather and I one day connected because we both were either writing something on Facebook about what it's like when your head gets you immersed in loneliness, and not just because of not being connected to your peers in HIV, but not maybe taken care of. For me, it's even with medication and counseling, sometimes for me being a person living with bipolar disorder, I don't show up for myself even well. I don't know how some days. I have for a long time in my life, besides you as my family, I have for a long time in my life not lived near anyone in my family, especially after my parents died. And I kind of took care of them. And that became too overwhelming because I had to handle all that power of attorney stuff with my sister and nobody else near me. Through my HIV journey, in terms of this thing about how chronic illness impacts you, I felt lost along the way, even as exuberant and extroverted as I am. I can tell you, like Gregg was saying, that whole period between 1993 and 1996 for me, that was such a crazy part of the journey because there were no protease inhibitors, as we know. And my fiance at that time and I got diagnosed at the same time, and his CD4 count was 40 and mine was thankfully always good. So obviously, and of course, AZT did nothing for him, and he died in 1996, a month before the protease inhibitors were introduced. And out of that, I knew, and I forget in Philadelphia who I connected with. We had an HIV commission, and there were already really big activist groups. And had I not been diagnosed living there, like I'm way out in Lancaster County now, like right in Lancaster. If you know Lancaster, it is kind of a little city and very diverse and very cool, but around Lancaster, oh, it's very, very rural. So I live in Lancaster now, finally, since I've moved. I would not have connected with all of you, all of these groups. I would not have known about conferences. I would not have known how not to be isolated. I would not have known who to connect to. And sadly for all of us, no matter where we're from, the stigma is really stupid, isn't it? I don't feel like chronic long-term illness, we all know, that includes beautiful people with lupus, diabetes, other kinds of, there's so many other kinds of, and my mother was an example. She lived to be past 90, but she was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 40 something. And so she was definitely a long-term survivor way back when there were no breast cancer medications. And so I'm so sorry I missed what all of you said. But the loneliness continues if you think. I've been overwhelmed by grief sometimes too. You guys probably know my best mentor in the beginning died. Well, not in the beginning, but you know when COVID started and we all said, oh, okay, what's this going to be like? And then we got isolated because of that. The month after, I was working at a school, March 13th, I'll never forget. We got sent home with stupid little packets for kids to do, which how are they going to do it because we hadn't gone over any of the lessons. We got sent home, got isolated. My friend in the Hyacinth Project in New Jersey, she got HIV right away, and her son kept telling her, you shouldn't be working on that grant money for other women. You need to get yourself to the hospital. In fact, she died the next day. And I think you all know who I'm talking about. And now while I'm talking, I can't pull her name out of my head, partly because it's sad and partly because I'm so excited to see all of you, and partly because, wow, I look old today. But it's okay. The grief, the sadness, the isolation puts in your head that you're the only one going through this, and we're not. And I sometimes have told myself I don't know how to reach out, or I have had to really learn how to ask for help, because even my HIV doctor, my infectious disease doctor up until a few years ago, now I have a really new, wonderful person too. He always said to me, Susan, people are not going to know what you need because you always present as the problem solver who can fix everything for everybody else, and you try to make people think nothing's happening with you. And I know some of you know this too, as we prepare for so many things in life besides our conferences. I have days where I just cry, and I don't look like that kind of person. Life is hard, but not just for people with HIV, not just for people with cancer, not just for kids facing all the trauma and things that happened in schools, not just for people who go home from situations and say, I wish more people were trauma informed people or educators or everything. And it's horrifying how people don't think in that way. I'm looking at the time too. Heather and all of you, I did want to say, I wanted to thank you so much that we had the conversation about isolation, chronic disease, HIV, how we handle or don't handle it. So I think sometimes I do handle it, but I'm not always ready to admit that it's hard. And sometimes I don't handle it well at all. And maybe I can give you, do you know vulnerability? You know that thing about vulnerability is a strength when we share, because then we pull other people in and give people voice. We always say that in the Positive Women's Network. Let your vulnerabilities lead sometimes. Well, some of you know this from what we've been going through in this, let's say, this regime, this thing that's happening, this crisis that we're in. I had, you can't predict what's going to happen in your apartment or house. I had a $900 plumbing bill. At the same time, I had just bought all kinds of things for my grandchildren and had a $900 electric bill, and I never have lived in a big place. That was too, I have never made that kind of money. I have never, I was in shock because groceries and gas were hard enough. And I know some of the rest of you too, like you walk into a store and I don't buy things I used to. So in my head, finally at that time, I went to my local food bank for help. And I went to that same agency that provides money for helping with utilities. And I want to say that I did that as we look at what's happening with SPBP2 or our ADAP plans. Oh my goodness, this is going to be frightening with things being cut. I went to this organization and they checked for me, and I'm one of those people that has almost always lived in that purgatory of being $1,000 or $2,000 above where you qualify for help. Well, that means that really creates a crisis. But this one time, they really helped. And they said, we're going to figure out a way to make that. No, we're not. Is there a, yeah, I don't know. That was amazing to me that I actually knew how to ask for help. That was it. And you would think, don't you, I don't even mind if you look at me and say this, don't you think a person who's already in her 70s would know how to do this, would know how to just ask for help? Because I know how to help other people. I know what to say. I know how to do this. I know where to guide people, and I can't always do it for myself. So that happens, I think, with chronic disease and isolation and sadness. And I don't know about the rest of you, but with bipolar disorder for me, I don't even know what's the right word? It comes out of me when I so don't want it. It shows up when I it's like the thing I say in accompanying that. I don't know about the rest of you, but for me in my life with grief, I want to compare that too. That's not a companion I have ever wanted. I have never wanted to be a guru dealing with grief, but I was a teenage pregnant person that then gave birth to a nearly full-time dead baby. That's too much when you're 19 or 20. I went through a divorce that was so hard. My fiance died later. my ex-husband, who I never thought would be my great friend again, we became friends after we didn't have to be together. And then right after that, he died of a massive heart attack. Like I said, my mentor and the different people, the layers of people we have lost in our whole crew, our whole amazing peers living with HIV, I just cry. And yet I know I stand on their shoulders. Recently, there's been others, and it's hard. And I don't find it a compliment when people say, "Oh, you're good at handling this." No, I'm not. I don't want it to accompany me. I don't want it. I love how beautiful and bold and courageous all of you are. And I think in PWN, I want to close with this. What helps me get over the chronic disease, loneliness, sadness, questioning part of me is that knowing that all of you are courageous with me. I love that part better than saying, "Oh, you have to be brave." And we talked one time about that in the white women's focus, white folks anti-racism group. Courage becomes such a beautiful word because it comes from the root, the heart. The cur comes from the heart. Courage isn't something that is mandated by like a military, like bravery. Courage is not like bravery. It's a thing you do because apart from your head, in your heart, you know that if you do this thing, it's not that you're doing it to say, "Hey, I'm brave." It's you're doing it because you bring others in and you know that it's a beautiful thing and a right thing, and you know it's love. Courage is a component of love, yourself and others. Courage is such a component of that. And wow. And speaking of that, I'm just amazed at the people that I'm seeing. I didn't know, Heather, if I even had courage to come on after I'm out there running and I heard the phone thingy, but I don't answer my phone or look at my messages when I'm running. And I missed things, I'm sure, in the last couple of weeks because I got my husband placed in a memory care safe place, and I moved. But thank you, all of you, and I made it.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Susan.
You're so welcome. Oh, I am just overwhelmed with who I'm seeing. I could cry again.
Feel free to. So we have a couple hands up that we want to get back to our Q&A. So I see Barbara Russell has your hand up. Would you like to unmute and say something? It's been up for a while, so yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm friends of Ruth, and I just always think, where was she? Where was this organization when I first learned that I had HIV? Um, I got married for the second time, and I didn't know the gentleman that long. But anyway, we got married, and we signed up for health insurance, life insurance, and we weren't a good match at all. And before the results came back, we were split. And that was wonderful because I didn't have to tell him, and he didn't, I don't know, who gave what, and I don't even know. I just don't know. But anyway, I'm here to say that um, I've become so strong, and I'm just so blessed to be a part of this organization. And I want to say that I've been infected since 1997, and I'm still here. And I'm like Greg. I asked the doctor, "How long do I have to live?" And he told me 10 years. And I couldn't share it with anyone. And speaking about sharing, last year, and I think it was a lot of encouragement from Ruth and the group that I belong to. I had courage to tell my children. That was the biggest thing for me, telling my children. And just one time, I said, I'm going to tell them. And believe it or not, they were very receptive, very receptive. But, one more thing I want to add, and I'm so proud of and blessed that I was 88 in February. So God is good. That's all I can say. And thank you so much for all of you, your encouragement. I'm between tears and laughter. But anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for weighing in.
Yeah. Andrew has his hand up, I think, for a while too.
Andrew, you want to go ahead?
You're on mute, Andrew.
While Andrew is coming off mute,
How
this
about
is
now?
Wahida.
Can you
Oh,
hear me?
good. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. There you
I'm
go.
calling in from Victoria in British Columbia, up in
Welcome.
Canada, where I immigrated 21 years ago from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was infected in 1980, and in 1995, I had a handful of T cells and a viral load, up in the millions, and I got one of the very rare places in the Crixivan trial, which was so effective that I've since learned the very first dose I took knocked out the virus. But it was a trial for only 1,400 people. Here in British Columbia, all HIV positive people get free heart medication. And our health service believes that by keeping us healthy, we save the healthcare system more money than it costs to buy us heart. And I don't know what the situation is. I know that Susan mentioned New Jersey. I have no idea what the availability of heart is in the US. It's generally available here as both a lifesaver and savings for the health care system, because as Canadians, we have free health care. It's unfortunate. I understand that the US government has recently pulled back on generic medications being sent to Africa. I mean, this is a illness that we can overcome with these medications. And, that somebody is so bigoted that they would deny medications to Africans where, there's still a lot of HIV running around, makes no sense. And I just don't know, in the US, is heart generally available for HIV positive people? Do you have to pay for it, or does it come free like we get it here? BC has a population of 6 million people, which is about the population of Denmark. We have the lowest rate of new HIV infections in the world and fewer new infections than Denmark has, because of free heart. It makes sense. You keep people alive and you save money for the health care of my fellow British Columbians who are not HIV positive. And I'm sorry that it may be the case that that's not true in most states in the United States, which is unfortunate because it's a treatable condition, but the medications are expensive. And, I'm glad I immigrated 21 years ago and my health care is free, and I wish it was for all of you. You know, it just makes sense. You know, it's cool to be kind, and it saves, but we have no private um, healthcare insurance industry like you have here. We all get
Right.
healthcare because we're Canadians, and it pays for itself because we're healthy. You know, HIV positive people in British Columbia don't spend a lot of time in the emergency room, which I certainly did before I got on the Crixivan trial, which literally saved my life. And I wish it was the same for everybody, you know, both here in the US and around the world. You know, it makes sense. And why would we put people through this terrible disease when we have a way to avoid it? I just, you know, obviously I left the US for a variety of reasons, but it was, you know, a couple of decades before Donald Trump, and I don't recognize the country I used to live in, and it's certainly not compassionate, which is
Thank
unfortunate.
you, Andrew. Yeah, thank you for that. Is there anyone who's been involved in advocacy for access who wants to quickly speak to the current status of medication access in the US right now?
I
Well,
I I think we could summarize it by saying it's a hodgepodge of private payments, private insurance, some government-sponsored programs, um, depending on income level, and it's a fractured and messy ass system.
yeah, so this is Wahida. So in the United States, we have something that's called the AIDS Drug Assistance Program. It may be, and that's at the federal level. It may be called something different in different states. The state I live in is Pennsylvania. We call it Special Pharmaceutical Benefits Program. And recently, they've changed the eligibility requirement. If you're a person who works a full-time job, many people with HIV have gone back to work. And many of my friends I know who I'm retired, but many of my friends I know who work in full-time jobs, they are no longer eligible to receive special pharmaceutical benefits. So we are doing advocacy at the state level to raise the criteria as far as the eligibility level, because just because people make a couple of dollars is never enough. It's never enough, especially when we're having these medicines that cost so much. And even at the federal level, we have what we call AIDS Watch. We go do a lobby, a couple of lobby days every year in Washington, D.C. at the federal level. And one of the things that we always ask for is to support those programs at the federal level, the AIDS Drug Assistance Program, because there's more people having to eat from the same pie. The pie is the same, right? That's fund doesn't go up, but the amount of people who needs the medications do increase. So I just wanted to just like say that, and I just want to say this has been a really really wonderful webinar, and I've heard some things I hadn't even thought about to connect with the chronic fatigue syndrome, and make your doctors listen to you. That's what I learned here today, is the doctors think that we don't know our own bodies, and we do know our own bodies. So when you go to the doctor, it's our job to make them listen to us when we go in there. Um, and take a list of things so you don't just go in off your head. Because some of us may have problems with memory. Write it down so that when you go in, you know, you'll have everything. And if you can get the case manager appointment the same exact day, because as we get older, we need to talk more. 20 minutes is not enough. I need to go. I'm still talking when the doctor's like leading me out the door. So from there, I'm going to the case manager because I still have some things that maybe the case manager can handle. And the last thing I want to say is, Miss Ruth, thank you so much. In the hospital, you prayed for us on Zoom. We did an event in Virginia with the reunion project, and Miss Ruth was not able to be there. But in her hospital bed on Zoom, she said a prayer, and pray for the success of that event. It's one of the greatest events that we've ever had with the reunion project. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. Gabriel, Miss Ruth, Greg, and Susan. Thank you all. And JD, thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you all. Do we have time to linger for one last question? Is that
Let's
okay?
linger.
Because I see RJ Jackson, you have your hand up, so I'd like to ask you to unmute.
Hey there. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is RJ. I am, let me put my little timer on. I do have ADHD, so timers are really good. I am living with PASC, post-acute sequelae of SARS coronavirus, also known as long COVID, and have done lots of work over the years around educational entitlements and civil rights of children living with long COVID as an educator, and face significant retaliation and all sorts of stuff. But the thing I wanted to say in response to the comment about just like costs in medications and like what does that look like? I'm in Los Angeles. I have been taking PrEP, Truvada for PrEP, like for almost 10 years now, I think, like starting when I used to be a teacher in New York. Um, and I um the things, okay, I have like my little timer on, so I'll like wrap up. The thing that I guess I wanted to share is that like, okay, have been taking Truvada for PrEP for a decade. And that's thanks to in all honesty, like so many of the people that are in this space right now, and so many of the people of our ancestors and people in different spaces, people who are chronically ill, disabled, immunocompromised, marginalized in different areas of our identity. That's the reason why I was able to even get Truvada for PrEP that a decade ago. And right now, why is that relevant as someone living with PASC? Because there have been some trials that have been done and that are in progress of repurposing Truvada and some other medications specifically for certain subtypes of long COVID or PASC. And when to finish up, to like kind of, I guess, tie it back to the question that was asked, when I was reinfected with SARS CoV-2 at the end of 2023. It was right after I moved to California to work at a new school. Got reinfected. My PASC significantly declined. I was out of the workforce for about a year, and then at one point when I didn't have insurance, in order to continue taking the PrEP medication, which, hey, like there's some parts of this that may be helping for my PASC as well. When I didn't have insurance, the Ryan White program, Ryan White, like, oh my gosh, like I could, his legacy like just continues to like live on. When I didn't have insurance for that period of time, that the Ryan White program was able to pay for my PrEP medication during that period of time. But there have been cuts to various different programs. And I recall, I'll just say in closing, I know that several years ago there was like a federal judge that had tried to rule like something along the lines like against allocating funds like for certain programs like similar like to the Ryan White. So definitely agree with the comments that were shared, and just want to say thank you to just everybody that was involved today and just sharing your stories, and just I just really love just being able to be part of so many different spaces and communities where we can just support one another, especially during these times. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Thanks for being here and all you've been doing. I know we need to wrap up. I did want to quickly add as just a reminder, if you have been feeling some kind of way, some kind of difference in your health, particularly over the last 5 years, even if people think they never had COVID, it's probably just you had it asymptomatically, and it may be long COVID. And that's the importance of getting specific informed support, because for many people with long COVID, the kind of advice that's given, such as being active and exercise, could actually make it worse or make the damage permanent. So it's extremely important that we educate that providers in the HIV community, and everybody else about distinguishing long COVID, because these are things that make it more likely that people have long COVID, that you already had an illness when you had COVID, that you are older, that you are someone who it's most prevalent actually in transgender people, for example, many who have lived with HIV, that you are someone who is low income and does not have paid sick time and didn't get to rest when you were sick. These are a lot of things that overlap with the HIV community. So it's likely that people with HIV are 2 to 4 times as likely as other people to get long COVID, and it's really quite common. It's estimated that about 7% of adults in the US already have long COVID, 400 million people worldwide. It's the leading cause of why disability rates are going up. So please get the information from Long COVID Justice. Thank you to Gabriel for sustaining the efforts there. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, for being a part. You're all a part of the Reunion Project, and we're so grateful for all that Reunion Project has been doing for so many years. And please reach out and do we have where's the evaluation form. Heather posted. I'm going to post it once more in the chat, by telling the evaluation form like what you thought, what else you'd like to see. That helps the Reunion Project keep going and to keep doing better and better in this tremendously important network that centers long-term survivors of HIV. So please keep in touch and look out for the next event. And please spread the word today. Look at the Long COVID Essentials information on the Long COVID Justice website. You can put it at the library, hand them out at meetings, because this information is not getting out there. If you could imagine if HIV started, as bad as it was with Reagan, right? If HIV started during the Trump administration, how much misinformation there would be, how little real information there would be, how many barriers there would be to treatment, care, prevention, support. That's what's happening with long COVID. We don't have the big support groups. We don't have the big networks for research. Like a lot of the stuff that we fought for, one in HIV, we don't have for long COVID. So it really is important, since it affects people from the HIV community so much, that people do what they can to spread the word on this. So I appreciate all of you thinking about what you can do and for keeping in touch. So thank you, everybody, and have a good night wherever you are. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.